Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel Cracking IELTS 9.0. Today I'll be discussing Cambridge 16 Test 4 Section 3 of the GT reading module. Right, as you can see, the heading says History of Women's Football in Britain. So without wasting any time, let's look at the first question that we have today. What is it? In the first paragraph, the writer says that in 18th century Scotland. Okay, so we have to read the first paragraph and then we'll read the options. That will be more easy for us to understand. So women's football in Britain has deeper roots than might be expected. In one town in 18th century Scotland, single women played an annual match against their married counterparts. Though the motives behind the context were not purely sporting, some accounts say that the games were watched by a crowd of single men who hoped to pick out a potential bride based on her footballing ability. Okay, so yes, what did we read here? So women used to play annual football games with their married counterparts, means single women versus married women. Okay, so the aim is not purely sporting, but some believe that single men used to watch this a lot because they wanted to pick out a potential bride in the hope of picking one, right? So what are the options now? See, only unmarried women were allowed to play football. No, both were one single woman versus married women, right? Next, women's football was more common than men's football. No, it was not mentioned anywhere. Women were sometimes forbidden to watch football matches. No, not mentioned in the passage. Next, skill at football might be considered when choosing a wife. Oh, yes. So men used to watch this to pick up a potential bride, right? So choosing a wife. Yes, this is the suitable answer. So 28 is D clearly. Okay, guys. Next, the writer says that Nettie J. Honeyball was unwilling to. So this is the keyword. Honeyball was unwilling. So she was unwilling to do something. What was that? Let's read the passage and come back to the options. By the late 19th century, with the men's game spreading across Britain like wildfire, women also began to take up association football. Early pioneers included Nettie J. Honeyball. Okay, we got the keyword here, right? Who founded the British Ladies Football Club (BLFC) in 1895. Honeyball was an alias like many of the middle and upper class women who played in the late 19th century. She was not keen, okay, this is the thing we are looking for, unwilling. She was not keen to publicize her involvement with a contact sport played on muddy fields. We know more about Lady Florence Dixie, who was appointed president of the BLFC in 1895 and who was an ardent believer in equality between the sexes. Okay, so she was unwilling about what? She was not keen to publicize her involvement with a contact sport played on muddy fields. Okay, so for this she was unwilling. Let's read the options now. Take an active part in the team sports. Unwilling to take an active part in team sports. No, not the suitable option. Mix with people she considered lower class. No, we didn't mention anything like lower class or upper class, right? Let the public know of her involvement in football. Yes, she was not keen to publicize her involvement. Involvement is the keyword. Publicize means let the public know of her involvement in football. So this is the more suitable option. I think C should be the answer, right? Anyhow, let's read D. Take a leadership role in the BLFC. No, it's not like a leadership role, but C is our more suitable answer, right? So 29 should be C. Next, the writer suggests that in Britain between 1895 and 1914. So what's happening here? Between 1895 and 1914, what's happening in Britain? We'll read the passage and then we'll come back to the questions. Okay. So the BLFC arranged games between teams representing the north and south of England where money would be raised for those in need. Okay. These initially attracted healthy numbers of supporters, although early newspaper reports were not particularly generous. with one reporter suggesting, when the novelty has worn off, I do not think women's football will attract the crowds. Okay. And crowds did drop off as the growing popularity of the men's game came to dominate the public interest. In a country where women were not yet allowed to vote, it would take extraordinary circumstances for their efforts on the football pitch to attract widespread attention. Okay. So, those circumstances arose in 1914 with the outbreak of the First World War. With many men leaving their jobs to join the army, women started to work in the factories, and just as men had done before them, they began to play informal games of football during their lunch breaks. After some initial uncertainty, their superiors came to see these games as a means to boost morale and thus increase the productivity. Teams soon formed and friendly matches were arranged. Okay, great. So, what happened between 1895 and 1914? Any idea? Let's read the options, we'll get the idea. Okay. Society was not yet ready for women's football. Oh, yes, we have read something about this. Society was not ready. Let's keep it on hold. Okay. There were false reports of the decline of women's football. False report? No, the reports were true. They were not false. Okay. The media felt that women's football should not be allowed. No, nowhere we read about this, right? Women's football mainly attracted people because it was unusual. No, not at all. I'll tell you. See, in a country, here we have the answer. In a country where women were not yet allowed to vote, it would take extraordinary circumstances for the efforts on the football pitch to attract wide attention. So they were not even allowed to vote. So playing football is a great, like it's a Herculean task for them. Okay, so we are not sure. So people were not ready to accept them yet. So the society was not yet ready for the women's football. Yes, A should be the right answer. Then this is more close among all the four options. Okay. Next, after the First World War broke out in 1914, factory managers, what did they do? Well, this also we have read already. Were initially unwilling to employ women? No, we didn't read anything about that, right? Played in matches against female employees? No, they did not play. Allowed extra time for the employees to play football? No, they used to play only in their lunch breaks, right? And decided that women's football might have positive effects. Yes, we have read about these positive effects. What are they? I'll show you. See, after some initial uncertainty, their superiors, means managers, came to see these games as a means to boost their morale and thus increase the productivity. Okay, so increasing productivity and boosting the morale, these are the positive effects. That's why they came and watched those games. So what is the answer, guys? 31 should be D. So decided that women's football might have the positive effects, right? Okay, let's move to the next set of questions. Here we have matching, guys. Okay, here we are from 32 to 37 we have matching. So we have read something about the BLFC, right, till now. So we have read only about BLFC. We didn't come across all the remaining. So let's answer at least these questions, right? Okay, we'll answer at least. See, we have a hint. You may use any letter more than once, right? So definitely any letter may repeat itself. Okay. It felt threatened by the rise of women's football. Did we read that about the BLFC? No. Next, it was established by a male officer. No, it was BLFC was established by a female officer, right? So this cannot be the answer. It donated money from football matches to good causes. Oh, yes, it donated money. Yes. I think I have read something about this BLFC. Where is it? See this one, guys. BLFC arranged games between teams representing the north and south of England where money would be raised for those in need. Okay, so this is the sentence it has. So money would be raised for those in need. What does it mean? Donated money from football matches to good causes. Yes. So 34 should be clearly A, right? So 34 is A, BLFC. Next, It called for the ending of the ban on women's football in Britain. No, we didn't read anything about that. It was accused of being old fashioned. Old fashioned, not at all. We didn't read that yet. It was led by a believer in women's rights. Oh, yes. I think it is led by a woman, right? She also believed in women's rights. So, where is that sentence? See, so it is led by Honeyball, right? Honeyball. Next, who was an ardent believer, means die-hard believer in equality between the sexes. Equality means women's rights, right? Means men and women both are equal, right? So she was a believer in women's rights. So BLFC, of course, again 37 is matching with BLFC. So only we got 2. Next, we will read all the remaining passages to get an understanding. So the Dick Kerr's ladies team. Now we'll read about this. Okay, BK. In the town of Preston in north of England, the female workers at the manufacturing company called Dick Kerr and Co. showed a particular aptitude for the game. Watching from a window above the yard where they played, office worker Alfred Franklin spotted their talent and he set about forming a team. Under Franklin's management, they soon drew significant crowds to see their games. Known as Dick Kerr's Ladies, they beat a rival factory Arundel Court hard 4-0 on Christmas Day in 1917 with 10,000 watching at Preston Stadium. Oh, great. So, who was the leader of this? See, office worker Alfred Franklin, right? So he was office worker male. Okay. So what does this read here? It was established by a male office worker. Yes. Which is it now? The Dick Kerr's ladies team, B. So this one is clearly matching. 33 is B, guys, right? Alfred, his name was, right? Okay, after the war ended in 1918, the Dick Kerr side and other women's team continued to draw large crowds. In 1920, there were around 150 women's side in England, and Dick Kerr ladies packed 53,000 in Everton's Goodson Park Stadium. The same year, the team found their one true genius, Lily Parr. Parr grew up playing football with her brothers and began her career with her town's ladies team at the age of 14. When they played against the Dick Kerr side, she caught Franklin's eye and was offered a job at the factory, as well as a spot on the team. Close to 6 feet tall and with her jet black hair, she had a ferocious appetite and a fierce left foot. She is credited with 43 goals during her first season playing for Dick Kerr's ladies and around 1,000 in total. Okay, great. 1921, Dick Kerr's ladies were regularly attracting crowds in tens of thousands, but the year ended in catastrophe for the women's game. The Football Association, officially the governing body for the sport as a whole, but really once concerned with men's competitions, had always taken a poor view of female participation. Women's football was tolerated during the war, but in the years that followed, driven by the fear that the women's game could affect football league attendances, the FA sought to assert itself. Okay. So its solution was decisive and brutal. On 5th December 1921, the FA banned its members from allowing women's football to be played at its grounds, saying that football was quite unsuitable for females. The FA also forbade its members from acting as referees at women's games. Oh God. Right, to all intents and purposes, women's football in England was outlawed. Okay. See, now let's read the 32nd one, guys. It felt threatened by the rise of women's football, right? Which was it? The Football Association, right? It felt threatened. How? I'll show you. We just read it, right? See, women's football was tolerated during the war, but in the years that followed, driven by the fear that the women's game could affect football league attendances, the FA sought to assert itself. Okay, so threatened means they had the fear that it could affect the football league attendances. Okay, they had the fear, means they were threatened. Hence, what is the answer for 32, guys? Clearly, it is C, Football Association. So, it should be C. Next, let's read further. The FA also suggested that an excessive proportion of the gate receipts were absorbed in expenses and an inadequate percentage devoted to charity. No such obligation to donate profits existed for men's clubs and no proof of financial mismanagement was presented. But there was little the women's clubs could do in response. Okay, so they were helpless. There was outrage from the players, with the captain of Plymouth Ladies remarking that the FA was 100 years behind the times and calling its decision purely a sex prejudice. Oh, so 100 years behind the times. What does it mean, guys? And purely sex prejudice means biased. They are sexually biased, means they are more biased towards the men rather than women, right? Okay, now look at this question, guys. It was accused of being old fashioned. What was it? See, right? The Football Association. See, it was said the FA was 100 years behind the times, means it's very old fashioned, right? So the answer is, so 36 should be C, Football Association, right? We got one more answer. So we are left with one. It called for the ending of the ban on women's football in Britain. Okay, it called for the ending of the ban. So the ban should be ended. What was that? So it was not until 1966 that serious efforts to revive the women's game began. But progress remained painfully slow. It took pressure from the Union of European Football Association (UEFA) to finally force the CA to end restrictions on women's football in 1971. By this time, half a century of progress had been lost. Oh, unfortunate. So UEFA, it has forced the FA to end the restrictions on women's football, right? So which question is left? 35th one. It called for the ending of the ban on women's Britain. Which one is that? D, right? So the UEFA. So this one should be D. 35 should be D clearly. Okay, guys. So let's move to the next set of questions. Okay, we have instruction, one word only. A catastrophic year for women's football. Okay, we have read this word catastrophe in the passage. I'll show you where. At the end of 1921, women's football team were forbidden to use the dash of the Football Association. Okay, what? They were forbidden means they cannot use anymore. On 5th December 1921, the FA banned its members from allowing women's football to be played at its grounds. Okay, saying that football was quite unsuitable for females. So they were banned from playing at their grounds. So grounds is the word we are looking for, right? So the answer for the first one should be grounds, right? Okay, next. And were not allowed to have Football Association members as dash. Okay, Football Association members, they were not allowed to play as, saying that football was quite unsuitable for females. The FA also forbade its members, means Football Association members, from acting as referees at women's games. Okay, so what is the word? Referees is the word we are looking for. Okay, so they not allowed the Football Association members to act as referees. Okay. Next, female workers accused the FA of dash against women, but the ban continued until 1971. So they accused the FA of dash against women. So yeah, there was outrage from the players, right, with the captain of Plymouth Ladies remarking that the FA was 100 years behind the time, calling its decision purely sex prejudice. Okay, so against women means prejudice, means it is biased. Prejudice means biased towards men rather than women. Sex prejudice means. So what is the answer now? Female workers accused the FA of prejudice, right, against women, but the ban continued till 1971. Okay, so that is the end of today's video, guys. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe the video. These videos are extremely helpful for people who want to crack the IELTS test. So I'll meet you in some other video. Until next time, goodbye. Have a great day.